Mental availability and physical availability. This is kind of a key concept here. If you look at the COGS graph, you can see these two are kind of the two big COGS after market share effects. Let me explain why mental availability and physical availability is so important to understand. Firstly, the person who came up with this is, and the person who we've got to give credit to is Byron Sharp. He came up with this theory in his book, How Brands Grow, and it has been widely adopted by a lot of brand marketers. The reason that they love this is because it helps to connect both advertising and retail together, helps to show what impact both pieces have on marketing effects. Now, what he says is that the area that we're most interested in advertising is the mental availability, and that is an indicator, has it's one of the best indicators of business successes around. It kind of marries the line of mental market share and mental salience are kind of correlated. So here you can actually see that correlation between mental availability and market share for the iPhone category, for the mobile phone category. So what is mental availability? What it is how often your brand comes to mind in the buying situation. Now, you probably heard something similar to that with awareness, which is a prompt on how often people can remember or your brand or are aware of your brand. Now, the key difference and the thing that separates, I think, Byron Sharp from past academics like Aker is that Byron concentrated on the key decision-making moment, the moment when you're actually in the buying phase. And he wanted to know in that moment, what brand do you remember? Because he said that is more important than the overall kind of awareness of the brand. Because being aware of a brand might not mean you actually want to purchase it in the buying moment. And what he showed was brand salience or mental availability is the amount of times that your brand comes to memory around the moments when people think of buying a brand. And that is what we also call is category entry points. So he came up with I think he came up with the term, or Ehrenberg Bass, the academic institution he works with, they came up with the term category entry points. So a category entry point is a moment when you're thinking about purchasing a product in that category. And so it's your entry point. So what he saw was that it's not just one category entry point. Brands have multiple different category entry points. And he mapped these three different parts to it. So the mental market share, so the percentage of category cues the brand is linked to. So how many for, drinking beer, there's multiple different times you want to drink a beer and with different people and different moments. So how many of those category cues percentage do you own? Then what percentage of customers link your brand to at least one of those category cues? So that's the mental penetration. And then the network size, the number of category cues customers link the brand to. So they're the three, when you put that all together, that is what mental availability is. So what does that actually look like in an example? Well, let me give you the example of Cheerios, the cereal. What they would do is firstly work out, they need to understand what are all the moments that people think about buying cereal? What are the occasions, the category entry points? And we've got another piece on category entry points later, so we'll go into a little bit more detail in another lesson on that. But for now, it would be when parents are thinking about buying a healthy cereal for their family, what comes to mind? When parents are thinking about a quick snack, what brand comes to mind? And what will happen is the consumer will just list the top brands off the top of their head. And what we try to do is we work out how many of these category entry points they exist. And so category entry points come in a number of internal and external sources. So it might be when we're thinking about cereal, it's like why, what are the why moments? So to satisfy my hunger, to feel better, trying to be healthy. When? Well, you have breakfast cereal at breakfast, afternoon snack or a midnight snack, where in the kitchen, maybe it's the office break room, friend's house, or on my commute, with who, with what. And so these all act as your kind of category entry points. And what a brand's trying to do is own as many of those moments as possible. So here we're just accounting for those different moments that exist. And the interesting thing is that category entry points, I believe, grow over time. So there's new moments that come out. So maybe midnight snacking is becoming more and more popular, or with certain people. Now we've got with cereal new moments. There's sneaker culture, and cereal seems to be a thing that's going off now. So there's all these new moments that grow. But what you end up with is kind of a list that looks something like this, where you will ask the consumers, tell me what brand comes to mind for sodas with great on a warm day. When you wakes you up, something a bit healthy, kids will enjoy it, or when I want to treat myself. And the brands will come up, the percentage will come up, and you'll be able to rank them. And then the brand that owns the most points across that, and the highest density of them, will be the brand that owns the most market share, which is amazing that it's got that direct correlation. Now, the other point to that's the advertising part, but the thing you can't forget about is the physical availability part to this. And that is, are people able to access your product when they're thinking of it? So when they're in that moment of, hey, I really want cereal, or I'm thinking about buying cereal, when they go to the shelf, is your brand there? Is it easy to get? And so that really comes down to retail, promotion, and distribution. It's not often the advertising can fix this point, but it has a massive effect on the end sales. And so if you don't have physical availability, it can really hurt your advertising, because you're not seeing that sell through. But on the other side, I've heard a story of a brand that usually advertises in the Super Bowl, but one year they didn't advertise in the Super Bowl, but they had a fake Super Bowl ad, and they convinced all retailers that they had a Super Bowl ad. So they got the end caps, and sales for that product shot through the roof like they had a Super Bowl ad, all because their physical availability grew. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting that you can kind of ride off the physical availability, even if you don't have the mental availability there. So for Cheerios, this would be, can you see it in the cereal aisle? Is it like front and center when you want it? Is it easy to find? And now with online, that's a new sort of physical availability. If you want to buy it online, is it easy to access there? So in summary, you in advertising is probably going to control the mental availability. So it's really important you understand the category entry points and what people are thinking of when they're thinking of buying your product or your category. And so this really helps to explain how advertising works, and there's a direct correlation here through to sales. The most important thing is you can't forget about physical availability. That is key too. You're not going to go anywhere without that. But hopefully this gives you a model of how brands actually work for now. But I would suggest, if you want to learn more, definitely check out the video on category